Everybody clap your hands. Clap, 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 clap your hands.
Yeah, that's like one of those songs that like you only hear if you go to like school dances and stuff like that. Like,
or baseball
that's
games.
not really a song I ever really heard on like the radio. Not that I really listen to the radio often, but
like every sporting event that I've been to, like professional sporting events, they've played that like to hype up the crowd.
Everybody clap your hands.
And it works. People get hype.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like whenever instructions are delivered via song form, like you can't help but do them. Like it's like almost like this hypnotic thing. We're like, oh shit, I have to clap, guys. They said to clap. Why are you? I have to clap. I'm sorry, I can't. What am I gonna not listen to the song? I mean, just absurd.
It's something that we're just like programmed to do. We have to follow the instructions given via song, which like really makes me nervous sometimes. Like you can get people to do anything as long as you sing it.
We should, we need to make a new song. You're like, now everybody eat the rich. We should do
eat the rich.
Eat the rich. eat the rich.
It's a catchy bop though.
I mean, it's just. I gotta do it, but damn, it's just like on like every station lately. So, hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. I am Michael Fite.
And I am drinking a crisp, refreshing Schlafly Boomerang, a lemon lime mead spritzer. Sorry, I'm Caleb.
Schlafly Boomerang.
That's Schlafly Boomerang.
Right. This podcast is not brought to you by Schlafly Boomerang.
This podcast is not at all sponsored by the St. Louis Beer Company.
But it could be.
But it could be. Like, you see, I hope that like one of these days a brand listens to all of the like potential for like paid sponsorship opportunities that we have, where we're just like we will talk about anything.
We're just talking about.
We're not even getting paid to talk about shit, and we'll talk about it. So like
talk about it.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we're fucking ourselves over by giving too much free publicity.
Idiots.
We got to go back and delete all of our unpaid sponsorship stuff out of every previous episode.
It just be like we just go back and cut through, and it's so I'm Caleb, and so I bought these new. So this movie was really weird. It's just you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
10 whole minutes gone out of last week's episode.
You're like, wait, what? That's weird. But anyways, thanks for joining us for this episode. We're halfway. We're in the middle point of March. We're in the middle of March. The Ides of March.
Oh shit!
Damn it! Fucking Shakespeare over here, letting us know what the deal is. But yeah, so I think it's Ides of March. Let me think. It's 8th to 15th. So Ides of March I think already happened.
No. So so that would be today. Today. For people listening to this on the day that it releases, it would be the Ides of March.
Damn.
Yes, because yes, definitely yes.
Yes.
No, definitely yes. The first was Super Lopez. The 8th was bloody fuck this shit. And today is the 15th.
Today's the 15th for El Monstro del Mar. Which, of course, translates to the Monstro del Mar.
I was surprised to learn that this was not a Spanish language film.
Likewise, I mean, I knew, I did peruse this, of course, and it's funny because I actually clicked on this film and started watching it before I registered what the name was, and I was like, what the fuck was the name of that movie? And then I was like, El Monstro del Mar. What the fuck does that even mean? It was really weird. I don't know. I don't really understand the name, not because it's in Spanish, but because one, it doesn't translate to anything.
The sea monster.
El Monstro, but it's kind of like it's the sea monster, I guess.
Del Mar is like of the sea.
Of the sea, and then Monstro. Yeah, so
it's the monster of the sea, the sea monster. So
the sea monster, which only appears in the last 5 minutes of the movie. For some reason.
Only appears in this one specific bay in rural Australia. This is an Australian film.
Yeah,
and it's obvious from like the first moments that anyone opens their mouth that it's very Australian.
Fuck off, mate. And you're like, I know where we're set. So this film, El Monstro del Mar, it was made in 2010, and it has a really kind of weird vibe to it. Like it starts off with like this cool 60s, like it's in black and white. There's like it's like very Tarantino 60s-ish, like it's got the cool 60s music, and you know, because everyone's like kind of rockabilly in it, like the three main characters are very rockabilly, so you know that it's modern times because they got like the tattoos that are very modern, but they're dressed very 60s rockabilly.
I was gonna say, like there's almost throughout like some like grindhouse type elements. There is, so I guess quick content warning, there is some pretty significant monster related gore and death, limbs being removed and whatnot. There is drug and alcohol use, lots of person on person violence, and that's roughly it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some few language of the characters. Yeah, language. Obviously, they're Australian, so it's
mostly Australian slang.
Yeah, and Yasleppa, and they, which by the way is translates slupper is Australian slang for a crack whore that you still would take home to dinner for your parents.
Interesting.
That's fucking Australians, man.
That's a very specific imagery.
Right, like, yeah, she a crack hole, but I still take her home to me mom. You know, like, all right, cool, that's great. She dresses up nicely, but yeah. So like, it's got this really weird '60s vibe, and there is a couple of scenes where some of the main characters kind of get down to their underpants, but it is very nondescript. It would be easily dismissed as a bathing suit. There's nothing really sexual, you know, maybe a few references here or there, but sexuality-wise, there really isn't much.
They go swimming in their underwear. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it really isn't a thing. I didn't even consider it, but I feel like it's a thing that should be mentioned. Anyways, so the film starts and we learn about our three main characters, who we have Beretta, Blondie, and Snowball. Obviously real names, because Australians are fucking weird. So I just assume that these are typical names in Australia.
Fun fact, it's not specifically these three, because there is another girl named Hannah, but Hannah, Blondie, and Snowball, they're the actors who play those parts. Their real names all start with K. It's Kyrie, Carly, and Kate, with Beretta being a Nelly.
It'd be in a Nelly, and which is funny because if you were to call Snowball Katie, it's Nelly, Kyrie, Carly, Katie.
Yes.
So, which is pretty funny. And you know what's something really weird about this film is that the top, first off, nobody aside maybe some of the like random like extras have actual profiles, like photo profiles on IMDb, but the girls aren't even the top build. No. The top build is some random fucking dude, Norman Yem. And like, he doesn't even have a profile, but he was in like, I don't know, a couple of random shit. Nothing really spectacular that I can see. But it's just fucking weird. Like he was the top build, apparently.
I mean, he's known for the 1998 Moby Dick, but like he plays a carpenter.
I'm gonna assume that he is he's the old man in the wheelchair, Gramps, only because he died at the age of 82 in 2015, which was about 5 years after this film was made. So
I feel like I remember them referring to him as Old Joe.
Yeah. But anyway, so the film starts off, and this is I actually really liked the beginning of this film, even though the motive is very confusing, and it's subject to much scrutiny, but visually, so it's all black and white. The framing of all the shots is really cool. Like, so it's the three girls. They're in a broken down car on the side of a very desert ish highway. And, they're just kind of like hanging out. One of them's outside. I think it's Blondie that's outside, or is it Snowball?
Yeah. Blondie, because she gets up and like starts dancing on the bonnet of the vehicle.
Yeah. Yep. And so, so she's outside and she, they play like this cool 60s rockabilly tune and, Blondie gets on the hood and they start dancing. And it's obvious that they're waiting for something or someone. And of course, we have two male locals that come driving up in a very nice car, very 60s, Cadillac-esque car. And they pull up, and of course, Beretta sees it, and she's like, all right, girls, let's get ready. Let's get ready. So, they put on the charm, and the guys attempt to try to fix their car. And of course, they're like, hey, like, here's these three sexy ladies. Like, you guys want to come down to the local swimming hole? And they're like, yeah. So the thing that's really confusing about this is that what we learn is that the girls are on their way to a camp or to like a house on the beach on the ocean water,
basically a shack in like a rundown old like beachfront town,
like fishing town basically.
Yeah.
And they're going there because a friend of one of the girls, I think it's either Blondie or Snowball, kind of like has this place and sets it up for them. So now we'll get to why that's weird. But the other part is, so like the other thing is once they get to the guys, it seems like they were waiting for those specific guys, but we definitely learned that the guys stumbled across these girls. It was really weird.
They were essentially waiting for like an opportunity. So like what's presented is that they're waiting for help with fixing their broken down car. But what we learn is that they're opportunists who will take advantage of any situation. And they're very much in a hurry to get somewhere. We learn eventually, of course, that it's this shack in this fishing village. But like, they're like determined to get there. Almost as though there's a sense of urgency, like there's something they're going to or something they're coming from. It's very important, but we don't learn what. And so these towny yokels stop to help the girls out, and of course they think we're getting laid tonight. And so one of them is looking under the hood while the other is like trying to help start the car, and Beretta gives the signal, and they just open these guys up ear to ear, just right across the throat. Like,
and
holy shit.
And as they do it, that's where we get our spillover to color, pun intended or reference intended. So as soon as they cut the throat and the blood starts pouring out, the blood is basically turning the color onto the movie, and then the color flips on. Now, I really liked that visually. It was really cool. It was very Tarantino-esque, kind of reminded me of Kill Bill a little bit. But that being said, I also feel like this movie would have been really cool if the whole film was black and white. Or
even just the blood was colorized or things like that. Just something to like make it pop. I could see that. Yeah. Like this would have been a really good like faux noir black and white film.
Absolutely.
Especially as it comes later on to like the Monstro, as we'll talk
Monstro.
About. But it's very like sudden and to use a word that you used last episode, very jarring when like just out of nowhere these girls have switchblades out and they're just giving these guys a new smile. And then
why so serious?
And then as Townie number 1 is bleeding all over the hood of the car. Townie number 2 is bleeding all over the inside. And then Beretta gets angry at the other two for getting blood all over the inside of the car.
Like what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like, she's like, you made a real mess of things, you bitches. And it's like, yeah, you just fucking you just can't open to this dude. Of course there's blood everywhere, you fucking idiots.
Literally gave the symbol, the signal to cut his throat. And she did that, and now there's blood everywhere. Like, I don't know what you thought the anticipated, outcome of this was going to be, but like there was always going to be a lot of blood involved, and like I knew from the moment that they flagged the car down, like, oh, they're probably gonna at least like con these guys into a ride, if not steal their car. I was not expecting the bloodbath. And I was not expecting them to like take a good deal of time to like clean out their car, like clean the blood out and like hide the bodies before taking the townie's car. They put a lot of effort into it. I don't know if it would have been enough to stop a good CSI team, but you know, it would be enough to stop one that's just, you know, oh, that's a lot of paperwork.
Oh, no. Let's just chalk it up to the dingoes, yeah? Sorry if that's offensive to Australians, but it's funny to me.
I don't know that I've yet met an Australian who's offended by anything, but I mean, they got to be out there. Please visit thenohoit.com and fill out our contact form and let us know if you're an Australian who was offended by this episode, so that we can know.
Of course, that email would be like, listen here, you cunts. I don't like your vulgar language you're using when you do your fucking podcast, eh? You fucking cunts. Like, goddamn, mate. You bunch of slupper-loving shitbags is what you are. You vulgar shit ninnies or something, you know, like, and I'd be like, oh, damn, I'm sorry. That's my bad. I just stepped off. Dear cunts. That's I would just picture an angry, like Australians typing angrily to Walmart. Dear Walmart cunts, want to return these pair of pants, trousers, you know, and they were a size too small. You know, like that's how like every email starts. So, great. As per my last email, you cunt. As per my last email.
So we mentioned last week about how captioning can get it wrong sometimes, and there was a great example of that where Beretta refers to Blondie as a tart, T-A-R-T. But it's tot because she's Australian, and so the caption literally spells it out as T-O-T, as though she's a small child or a compacted ball of shredded potato. You tat.
But yeah, so now we've had our moment of, you know, they stolen the car and they're off to head off to this tiny little not so cool looking. I mean, this isn't like a beach getaway. This is literally like it's a fucking dock off of a cloudy, shitty, like oceanside, you know, whatever side of Australia they're on.
This is definitely
Australia's fucking huge.
Yes, it is. It doesn't look like it on a map because, you know, maps are flat and the world is not. But this is definitely a lay low sort of place. This is not a like weekend retreat. So like, I mean, it seems in the beginning like they're on their way to party somewhere. Once they kill these fuckers, it's very clear that they're not, or they are, and they just have a really like they party hard. Like
like really hard.
Like Andrew WK wouldn't be able to keep up with how hard they party.
Right, like where like Andrew WK is like smashing bricks on his face, they're smashing them on other people's faces until their face disappears. You know, he was like, "Yeah, party hard. Look, my nose is bleeding. Oh my god, that guy's head is wide open. What are you doing? This is not how we party hard. Oh my god, there's blood everywhere." They're like, "Hey, mate, fucking
fucking party.
Holy shit." I need to leave. I went to a conservatory of music. I'm a classically trained pianist. My mom's a world-class violinist. This is too much for me.
Did you ever follow Andrew WK on Twitter? And he, I don't know if he still does this, but he used to do his whole like party as philosophy. And so like people would ask him different scenarios and like, you know, is this party? And like he would find ways to like make party be like whatever really like brings meaning to your life. So like, you know, if you really enjoy you know, sitting out at dusk on a quiet summer evening sipping iced tea, then that's party.
That's party to you. Yeah, no, it's pretty dope. And actually, so we know these guys, but the King's Coast Coffee Company, Andrew WK has the Party Hard Roast.
Oh, that's true.
It's a roast with King's Coast Coffee. It's pretty awesome. So
I'm trying to remember if I ordered that last time. I think I might have ordered that.
Yeah, a really cool roast with King's Coast. But yeah, so once the ladies get to this town and they get to this little shack, the one thing that Beretta kind of makes a statement saying like, we just got to lay low here for 3 days, let things blow over, and then we'll leave. And as they get there, they show up and they're like, oh, let's go swimming. So Blondie and Snowball decide to strip down and hop into the water. Mm-hmm. And so they do that. And they get in, and then out of nowhere, or not out of nowhere, but out of the house or two next door, we get old Joe in his wheelchair coming out, and he's like, "Get out of the fucking water! Like, what are you doing?" And he's yelling at them, like saying to get out of the water. And the one thing that really pisses me off about Joe is he does the thing that I don't like in movies, and it happens a lot in bad movies because they don't think through scenarios and plots, and it's kind of like this is a plot hole. Mm-hmm. Is if he was like, hey, get out of the water, there's like a giant creature eating thing, like a giant creature that will kill you in there, like, hey, here's the reason why you shouldn't be in the water. A whole bunch of people died a bunch of years ago because there's a sea creature in there that attacks people. Mm-hmm. And they'd be like, oh shit, I'm not going to go in the water then because I don't want to die. Or maybe they do and they say fuck off and then they get killed. But like,
then at least he warns them for real.
Yeah. Right. Like, just give the reason. Because like everybody in this town, I mean, there's only like 20 people in the town, we learn, but like everybody except for Hannah knows that this creature existed because it only happened 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So like some of the adults that live there know they were there when it happened, like they were alive and are able to remember this scenario that happened that we learn about much later. But like Joe doesn't tell anybody until the other 18 people that live in this village fucking get massacred by him again. Then he's like, oh, well, I suppose I should tell you that there's, you're going to laugh. It's so, if you go in the water, it's a really funny story. There's this giant monster that kills everybody. I slipped my mind. I should have said something instead of just yelling vaguely that don't go in the water. So I seem like a crotchety old man.
Yeah.
We have fun here.
He really does make it seem like, he's the HOA president, and like you weren't supposed to paint your front door that color when they go in the water. It's like, nobody does that around here. We don't go in the water. Like, you might as well say we don't want your kind around here. Like, what are you actually saying, old man? You're not giving any information. You're just yelling. You're yelling at young people doing young people things, and of course, no one's going to take you seriously. Like, no one is going to take you seriously.
Yeah, and then the thing is, like, the three girls, of course, tell him to piss off, because, whatever. He's giving no reason why they shouldn't go in the water. He just keeps saying, don't go in the water. And they're like, fuck you. Like, this is our house, and, like, we're renting this place. It's a great fucking ocean. Like, why would I not go swimming in my beachfront property, you fucking twat?
Although, it's very obviously cold. So, like...
It has got to be freeze. Like, the wind is blowing really hard. Like, the seas are really choppy. It's dark, cloudy skies. This entire movie, like, the sun never comes out in this movie. And they're like, let's go swimming. And I'm like, what? No. This looks terrible for swimming. Why would you even... That would be, like, the last thing I would think of. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going in the ocean. Like, it just looks like a fucking terrible experience.
Which, like, Beretta's got it right. Like, she sits down just, like, outside the house and just laughs along as
twice.
The other two are enjoying their swimming time. And at this point, Hannah comes home, presumably from either work or school, because she's wearing some sort of uniform-ish dress.
At school, because she's in a school bus with other people in the same uniform.
And she's
Oh, she's 17.
She's 17,
Yep.
so yeah, presumably she's coming home from school. And she comes home and she changes into regular clothes and she wanders out and sees her grandpa yelling at these girls and she's like, just leave them alone. Like, what are you doing? Like, because she doesn't know either. She knows that like she's not allowed to go in the water, but he's never told her why, other than he said that her parents drowned in that water, when she was a baby. And so she just thinks like, oh, it's just not safe to swim around here. But she's, doesn't have issue with these new people showing up and swimming. And so she takes him back in and kind of calms him down. And then the girls start partying. They've got, like bottles of fucking Johnny Walker Red and like cases of what I imagine is probably shit beer. And then like doing lines of Coke and just blasting rockabilly music. And I'm like, yeah, these girls really do party hard.
And jeez, right? like I got tired just watching. I was like, I already want to go home, and I am home. Like, this party's too much for me.
And so Grandpa Joe sends Hannah over there to tell them to turn that racket down. But instead, Hannah decides to join them because she's intrigued. There's no other kids in this little village. There's barely any people. And she just lives alone with her, 80, 90-year-old wheelchair-bound grandfather. And so, she has no real, childhood. And so she's intrigued by these older women with their scotch and their beer and their Coke. And they try to get her to drink. She's like, oh, I don't drink. I'm only 17. They're like, oh, that's plenty old enough. And they pour her a fucking tumbler of scotch. And she drinks it. Oh, boy, does she drink. And she continues to drink, tumblers full of scotch. And I'm like, I'm sorry, if you've never drank before in your life, you're not starting with a glass full of Johnny Walker Red. It's not happening. You might
evolve to that.
You might make it through one sip of that. I don't even particularly like Johnny Walker.
It's hurting my throat just thinking about it.
But here we are, 17-year-old Hannah. Australians party, man.
Even at 17. So now Hannah has met the girls, and so now they're going to get their history lesson of what Hannah knows about the village. So before we get too far into that and we get towards the end of the film, let's go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we will delve into the grand finale of El Monstro del Mar.
Hey everyone, I'm Kitsy.
And I'm Caleb, and this is Left of the Dial, a music podcast.
Every week, we each dig into our collections for a record we love, or a new record we're excited about, and talk about it.
We'll share clips of songs that stand out to us, and discuss why we chose each one, what we love about it, what we don't, and why the record was important to us.
Hopefully, we'll find some new music to love with every episode, and maybe you will too.
So join us every Friday for new episodes at leftofthedial.fm,
or wherever podcasts are sold.
Hey, so I don't know if you noticed, but it looks like we've got another Anchor ad.
Oh.
So I guess we should talk about that. And I think we probably can't talk about Anchor without throwing out there right off the bat, it's free.
Free?
Can you believe it? It's free.
Wow. And I hear that there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
And if you're lazy like us, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I think some more too. I think many more.
That's fantastic because it's so much work going to all of those platforms.
It's so much.
And you could make money from your podcast with no minimum amount of people. So if you only have one friend that listens, you can still make some cash.
Like us.
Yeah.
And, it really is everything you need to make a podcast just in one place, one-stop shop.
Wow, one place. Well, you should go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Right now. But, after the episode.
Hello and welcome back. Yeah, what?
I still don't know what the big thing up on the wall is, but now there's a smaller spider on the wall in front of me, and I don't know if I'm going to make it through this.
You know what's great is that so this is carrying over from last week's episode. So anyone that's listening is now like, has this spider's been there for 1 week? Like, what is going on?
I mean, it's possible. Like, I don't look at this particular section of the wall at the where the wall meets the ceiling in my kitchen very frequently, and so it's very possible that whatever that is up there has been there for a week. Although I doubt it. It has moved some.
That's good. That's good.
But then this smaller spider that definitely just showed up. And I don't.
It's like the raptor. There's one in front of you, but then there's the one to the side that's coming at you.
Oh God. Oh, I'm gonna die.
They're everywhere.
So the Aussie girls are partying, and
Sure are.
Drunk Blondie and Snowball decide that they're going to go back in the frigid water. Beretta once again wisely decides not to, as does Hannah, who's, she may have started drinking tonight at 17, but she's not ready to start swimming yet. And so as the other two are splashing and carrying on and making a ruckus, Beretta is trying to coax out of Hannah why exactly she doesn't go in the water, and like what kind of life is this that she's like been like letting her grandfather like hold the death of her parents 15 years ago over so long and letting that like control her life. And she's like, if my mom died in that water, I'd own it. I'd go in there, and it's a great big ocean. You can't let it control you. Some oddly wise words.
Yeah, something to the effect of like it's a bane on their memory to not go in the water type deal. So she's getting her to go in the water, and of course they all get super trashed. Hannah passes out, and then they draw all over her face, as you do.
They like do makeup all over their own faces in like kind of like a sugar skull type pattern, and there's this weird trippy flashy scene of them like dancing and screaming and all sorts of stuff. But there is an interesting moment where Beretta is going to do another line of coke, and she's looking in the mirror, and it cuts to a scene of her reflection in a different mirror, and she's covered in blood. And here we see the three girls in a room full of dead men, just hacked apart and shot and stabbed in like all sorts of states of goriness. And so we get at least a glimpse of what exactly it was that they were on the run from. Now, we don't know exactly who these men were or why they died. We do know that there's some reference to all that money. So presumably there was a theft involved. But
yeah, that's what I'm not really like. You kind of, in the beginning of the movie, it kind of makes you feel like maybe they're just like, I don't know. I can't even think of the movie that I was trying to reference, but they're just kind of like killing for funsies and like world, like country tour killing.
Yeah.
Or is it like a, gang shootout, type of, oh shit, they killed a bunch of people, stole some money, and then bailed, and now they're on the run. Like, it's tough to kind of like figure out what exactly the motive is. Now, the thing about it too is that had they played up more of the monster part, it wouldn't have mattered as much. But the fact that 90% of this movie is centered around learning who these girls are, I feel like we should have learned more about that.
yeah,
Like, you got to give me one or the other. Either, spend a lot of time telling me about how they, are on the run and then, they fucking stumble into a giant monster, or, have them be like, oh, we're on the run. It doesn't really matter what from. Shit, there's a monster here. What are we going to do? It's tearing through the town. Like, one or the other. But it kind of just sort of happens.
it's the same. Like you've mentioned this before with movies that have like more than one plot, and either one of them could have been really good, but trying to make them both, neither one really hit where it needed to. And like,
Yeah.
this like overall wasn't bad, but like it was weak on the monster end, because like it's not until the very end that we see the monster and like it kind of appears and then like it's gone almost like that. I mean, this is an hour and 15 minutes long, so there's not a lot of time for setup and execution, but like they could have invested more. Or there's this whole plot about like these bandits on the run, and like, what are they running from? Who did they kill? Why did they kill them? Like, where's the money? What are their plans? But yeah, it's a weird mashup of that, like, kind of gangsters on the run and monster movie that, like, I don't know. It's slightly lacking.
Yeah, and the thing is too is about the monster is that it's not even a looming threat. Like, in some of these monster movies, you think of things like Jaws. So Jaws is a really great movie for many, many reasons, but Jaws works in a kind of a different scenario, is that the film centers around Chief Brody basically trying to manage being the sheriff of a town and trying to manage a beachside town in which he is afraid of the water. He can't swim. He's afraid of it. He's not really into it. And the monster, the shark, plays as a backdrop towards Sheriff Brody kind of stepping up to his fear. And you learn so much about Brody. You learn so much, about like Richard Dreyfuss and his character and the boat guy. And I'm blanking on these classic characters' names. But anyways, but that's the thing. Like, you learn so much about them, and the shark kind of like intertwines with that story, and it becomes part of the larger thing. Whereas this film it could have done that really well, and it just failed. Like, it just failed at it. And it kind of sucks because I feel like it would have been a really good film.
Well, and there's a chance for, as the monster's kind of starting to pick people off one by one, to create that sense of dread as people are disappearing. But there's not really enough people in the cast for that to happen. So basically, like, the townies all start to die, but nobody really notices that they die because nobody cares about them, because they're just their scenery more than anything. We don't notice anything about the monster as far as the main characters are concerned. There's no indication of a monster at all until we see the night of the party, like, Snowball decides to like pass out and fall asleep on the dock, which is like, oh, whoops, you probably shouldn't do that, sea monster. But they don't know, and they don't listen to the old man's warning, so she falls asleep on the dock. The next day, they can't find her, and they go off and search. And as they're searching for her, they start to see pieces of some of the townies. I think this was Gennaro. I think this was too.
And that's the other thing too, is that, like, as you mentioned, it would have been really cool if they were being picked off one by one, but all the townies die in one big scene. Like, they just all die at once.
Because there's only like 5 of them.
Yeah, and then we get Snowball, who has wandered off to a cave with her wounds. Beretta and Blondie, meet up with her and finally are like, oh shit. And she was like, it's a giant monster. Like, you don't understand. Like, I cut this thing up and it still came at me. Oh shit. Snowball dies. What the fuck? Beretta and Blondie go off to, back to the cabin to be like, what the fuck is going on? And Uncle Joe finally spills the beans on everything, and then that's the end of the movie. Like, now the big monster attacks. Like, at that exact moment, the monster attacks again, and that's the end of the movie. And it's so weird that it's this ass packed and not. It's just everything's packed into the last couple of minutes when it could have been this really great long-term, like, building, suspenseful scenario of like, oh shit, what is happening in this town? What the fuck's wrong with this place? It was just like, boom, done. Like, it happens. They do the thing. Done. The end.
Like, you make the apt comparison to Jaws because it's another sea monster type movie, but that's one where, like, they encounter the monster, so to speak, the shark, multiple times, and the danger and the tension and everything ratchets up slowly throughout the movie as they realize what they're actually up against. Whereas in this, like you said, there's they're back at Grandpa Joe's shack, and the monster like busts through and like attacks them, and Joe and Hannah go hide in the basement, and Beretta and Blondie grab whatever's handy and start like weakly chopping at it. And like, this whole time they're portrayed as like super badasses, but when they like are actually fighting the monster, they're like helpless and like,
it's like these very like half-assed.
And,
Yeah, like
at one point, Beretta grabs a trident off the wall, which, like, fuck yes, but like she just uses it to kind of like weakly stab at the tentacles when like
and like
you
whack them away.
You see the monster's eye through the doorway and like its giant mouth. It's basically like an enormous squid, but like each of the tentacles, there's like 47 tentacles and they all have like sharp teeth, like their mouths. So it's like this really bizarre like monster squid. But you know, it takes them like 10 minutes of fighting this thing before somebody thinks to like go for its eye and like actually wound it. Because obviously, like, chopping off these tentacles is doing nothing. But then, of course, Hannah comes up out of the basement with a shotgun.
Yep.
Poor Blondie gets her head removed by a tentacle. Just pulled clean off.
And the thing is, too, is like as the monster pulls the head off, it like carries it and like moves it a place, and I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna eat the head, you know, like he's gonna bring it, because we see the mouth too. And no, he just kind of like throws it against the wall, and I'm like, yo, that is a vindictive fucking squid. Like, this squid is just like making a point. Like, it's not even like feasting for food, it's just being a dick at this point.
I can't remember if it was in Jurassic Park or if it was in his travel memoir, but Crichton wrote about how, like, you know, no creature like naturally is a man killer or like hunts humans. It's when they realize that humans are easy prey. And that's when they become man eaters. I think they're referring specifically to lions, but if I'm correct, if it's in Jurassic Park, it's been so long since I read it, then obviously it's a carryover to like, well, the dinosaurs. But yeah, this squid, it doesn't even seem to like eat the people at all. Like we see the parts of the victims just like strewn around. Like it just rips them apart and like that's it. Like it's not hunting for food. It's just a monster.
Yeah, so that's so Joe explains the story of what had happened 15 years ago, and basically, you know, everybody kind of found this town, and you know, a whole bunch of people used to live there. You know, they of course, you know, got on the water, they were fishing, they were disrupting things, and it wokened this deep, you know, hibernating monster who unleashed its wrath on this town, and that's why everybody left, and now there's only, you know, 20 people left in this town. And now you girls have done the same with your partying, so I mean, whatever. It's like, for the type of film it is, it's a good enough plot. You know,
it's kind of like a weak ass like Godzilla sort of plot. Like, you know,
it is. Yeah,
mankind awakened this ancient being, and it wreaked havoc. But like people splashing around in the water and like playing music at a party. I don't know if that's enough to awaken an ancient slumbering being. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's not that deep of a sleeper.
Right. Like, and where is it sleeping that it can hear these girls slash? Because like when they're in the water, like they're barely waist high, like in this water. Like they're not like out swimming and stuff. So it's a little suspect. But yeah, so we get our big squid monster, we get our big battle. You know, Blondie dies, gets her head ripped up. Beretta gets her, you know, her fingers bitten off. You know, Hannah finally, you know, shotguns after shooting all the tiny tentacles for fucking 30 shots and then being like, aha, I will shoot the eyeball.
That shit behind you moving again.
What the fuck? Right? So like, I've got these like drawings like for my daughter behind me, like hanging up. And they're moving, but there's no air or anything. Like, I don't really know what's making them move.
This like flapping around like there's like an air vent that's blowing directly on, like up from the bottom or something like that. Because there's that one that's hanging off the corkboard, and then the photo next to it. They're both moving quite a bit.
Yeah. That's really fucking weird. Well, anyways, I'm going to die tonight from a ghost, but...
I just looked and like
going.
You posted a video about that recently, and like I just happened to notice the movement out of the corner of my eye. I was like, what the shit? And then I pointed at it and realized that my arm was well below the camera, so you couldn't actually see. So I just raised my finger up.
Just raised his finger up into camera view, and I'm like, what the? Like, I'm in the middle of, I'm like, I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
But like
wild shit.
It's really just like those two things too. Like nothing else around is moving. Like the Iron Man Thanos gauntlet isn't moving. Your camera keeps refocusing a lot.
Oh, probably because the ghost keeps, putting, getting in front. So it's like, oh shit, I got to refocus on him, not the ghost again.
I don't know what I would do if I fucking saw a ghost while we were recording, like something like behind you. Like,
I mean, that'd be it. I mean, what could you do? There's nothing you could do. Like, you see it and you're gonna be like, I just saw a fucking ghost, and unless I saw it, I'm gonna be like, fuck you. Like, like, what do I do? I mean, I would believe you if you're like, holy shit, dude, I just saw this thing. You'd be like, what the fuck? Where? What do I do? Tell me what to do. Oh God, tell me what to do. What do I do? Call my mom. Like, I just wouldn't know what to do. It'd be crazy. Anyways, El Monstro Del Mar, whatever. Beretta's like, Hannah, come with me after they, shoot the squid thing in the eyeball and it, goes back to the ocean. And she's like, no, I'm going to stay here. And so she leans in. And I thought this was the coolest fucking thing. Beretta leans in and she goes, I'll be back. And I'm going to bring some friends.
That was pretty awesome.
Bitch, you did just bring some friends and they got fucked up. But that was really cool. I thought that was a really cool, like, when she says it, like, it was just really fucking badass.
Yeah.
And then, that's the end of the movie. So, El Monstro Del Mar, available streaming for free on, surprise, Tubi TV. Go
Imagine that.
Imagine that. But, oddly enough, El Monstro Del Mar, we are not all Tubi TV this month.
No, that's true.
We have Netflix at the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
The three in the middle are Tubi TV because our next one is Tubi, and then the one at the very end is Hulu.
That's
exclusive. Actually, a Hulu original. Yeah, so that one's going to be pretty exciting. But yeah, so should you watch El Monstro Del Mar?
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so bad that it's not worth watching because it isn't a bad movie. It's got a really cool vibe. Again, if anything, for the cool rockabilly style and the very 60s way of shooting it. The monster is very cheesy.
Oh yeah.
But it's cool. Like it's done in a cool campy way and not in a, oh, that's your monster. Like it was kind of like that's fucking cool. Like that's a very 60s camp style, you know, sci-fi monster attack. And it was cool. It felt like it belonged in the film. Like aesthetically it flowed with the visual aspects of the film.
Yeah. I mean, it's an hour 15. It's it's like an art school monster movie. Like it's got a cool style to it. It's visually neat. There's some really interesting story elements. Like we talked about, I think that they could have been explored more. But like, it's not a bad little monster movie. And if you got an hour to kill, then yeah, watch it. It's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So streaming for free on Tubi TV, El Monstro Del Mar. So give it a go. So thus ends our episode on El Monstro Del Mar. And we thank you for joining us. And if you wanted to learn more about where else we are, like what's upcoming, where would I go exactly?
Well, as long as you can avoid monster-infested waters, you can surf on over to thenahoit.com. That's THENHOIT.com. I almost got it out with a straight face.
It was good.
And there you can see our upcoming schedule for the month, links to trailers, and a good warning for next week's movie. Even the trailer is extraordinarily NSFW, so you have been warned. As well as a quick reminder on where you can watch these movies, should you want to watch along in advance before we talk about them. Spoiler alert, most of the things we talk about are on Tubi because we like them and not because they give us money, although we are totally open to that.
They should give us money.
Yes. Of course, you can find a link to leftofthedial.fm, which is our partner podcast where our sound engineer Kitsy and I discuss new and old music and why we like it. But Michael, where else can they find us?
We are also available on these very fun up-and-coming social media sites called Twitter and Instagram. They are cool sites. Instagram allows you to post photos that you can view, and Twitter, of course, allows you to type out thoughts and things via 240 characters. So
how can I sign up for those?
I know, and it's wild. I hope something comes of them one day. So both of those sites, we are the Nahoit Podcast, the NHOIT Podcast, and on both Instagram and Twitter, you'll see things like upcoming episodes as well as clips of past episodes. Normally it's a clip of the episode that is current this week, so you can kind of get a feel for what you're getting into when you dive into an episode of the Never Heard of It podcast, and maybe some links and things to other things we find cool. But yeah, so definitely join us on all those sites, and we appreciate it. Of course, tweet at us, tag us on Instagram if there's a movie that you think we should cover, or if you just kind of want to give us some general feedback, harsh criticism. Make sure that it all starts with "Dear cunts," and we would be greatly appreciative of that.
Yes.
But yeah, so thanks a lot for joining us. So next week episode is our last Tubi episode of the month, but not our last episode of the month, and it's going to be the film Blood Scarab, which I'm kind of excited for because it's a modern take on Elizabeth Bathory, who thought she kind of lives in the vampire lore, but she's not exactly a vampire per se. But I don't know how they're going to portray her in this. But Elizabeth Bathory was known for bathing in the blood of virgins to remain eternally young. It was her kind of immortality fountain. So excited to see how they take this very classic figure of Elizabeth Bathory and portray it in the modern world. So whether good or bad, I know that there will be lots of boobs.
Yes. That last part is a fact. Well, yeah. Beware the Ides of March. Beware the seas off the coast of Australia, and I guess never stop to help someone whose car's broken down on the side of the road.
Right, you will get murdered.
You will get brutally murdered. That's it.
Cool, good advice. This has been advice from the Nahoit Podcast.
Bye.